Okay. Where is it? Where is it? Come on, come on, come on. With a huff of exasperation, I pushed myself to my feet and set my hands on my hips, having just rummaged through the miscellaneous items beneath my bed for the upteenth time, and with no success. In a last-ditch effort, I triple-checked my backpack, rummaged through my pockets, and pulled open my drawers of my desk, but it's no use. My phone is gone. Valkii, it's time to go, sweetheart. Have you covered up all your bruises with foundation? My mum's voice rings from the kitchen, and I know I'm already late. I have no choice but to abandon my search. A feeling of dread and disappointment slithers through me as I sling my backpack over a shoulder and head downstairs on my way to school. Minus my phone. It's been missing all weekend, and I might as well have lost my head, because that's how useless I feel without it. I tried to recall where I had seen it last, but the only memory that comes to mind is one of Grey Jansen, holding my phone out of reach with that infuriating smirk on his handsome face. I shake my head to clear the thought of how I had helped him that night, but before I had known who he was. I had gotten my phone back from him in the end and slipped it into my pocket for safekeeping, but curiously, I hadn't seen it since. Did he somehow steal it? Hey! Sarah finds me at my locker before class, just as I'm pulling out the books I need and setting the pin to lock the door. Hi. My greeting must sound as gloomy as I feel, because she raises a dark eyebrow at me when I turn to her. You didn't message me back over the weekend. Is something wrong? I give her an apologetic look and let out a weary sigh. I lost my phone. Her eyes glint with realization, and she makes a sympathetic face. Well, anyway, what I was trying to message you about was the Phantom and his deadbeat gang being on our turf again this weekend, Sarah says, her nose wrinkled in disgust. My eyes go wide in disbelief as I hear the name, the Phantom. That's Grey Jansen's title. They started at the lake, then they had the nerve to order burgers at Sammy's. They what? I suddenly want to tell Sarah everything that happened a couple days ago, how I ran into the Phantom without knowing who he truly was, and how I helped him escape from Riverside. By the time we got everyone together, they were gone, just like that. Really lives up to his name, you know. In any case, I wouldn't want to be caught dead hanging out anywhere around them. Sarah's eyes are fierce, and it's clear how much she despises Grey and the Da Capos. My throat tightens at the thought of how she would react if I told her the truth. All I know is she'd either be angry or disappointed, probably both. It doesn't even matter if I didn't know who he was to begin with. You just don't help your rival gangs. Tell me more about the Phantom, I ask. Sarah looks at me incredulously, as if I had grown another head. I should know more about my enemies, shouldn't I? I argue weakly. She relents with a nod and lets out a heavy breath. You're right. Well, where do I start? He's been the leader of Da Capo High for 3 years now. Before him, Da Capo wasn't much of a threat, but he turned things around so quick no one could really believe it. That's not something I knew. It's only been a year since I've been pulled into this little world, but it seems he's been a part of it for much longer. He's the devil, or as good as, she huffs. The Phantom has no fear. He'll pick a fight with anyone and everyone just for the fun of it, and most of the time, he'll win too. Even when he gets his revenge, it's so brutal, you'll wish you lost on purpose the first time round. Sarah shakes her head and clenches her fist, breathing hard as her anger gets the better of her. He's a monster. He sounds like the worst, I say, agreeing with her description and feeling a little sick that I'd had such a close encounter with him only days ago. I should have taken the chance while I had it and beat the living daylights out of him. She lets out a long breath and gives me a grim smile, relaxing a little. The worst of the worst. I'm glad you think so too. Of course. My eyebrows dip in confusion at her statement. Why wouldn't I? She shrugs, waving a dismissive hand in front of her. I guess for me it's more personal. I never told you this. It happened before we were friends like we are now, but in his first year of leadership, he put my cousin, Dylan, in the hospital. Crushed his knee so bad he couldn't walk right for months. I had no idea, I say as I put a comforting hand on her arm, horrified. If I'd known this the other night, I wouldn't have hesitated to put him in his place. Sarah's gonna kill me if she finds out what happened. Well, she's not really a friend if she's, like, putting the gang above you. I don't know. Above, like, you not knowing anything. I mean, to be... Oh, okay, let's... As the leader of the Kleiner Academy or whatever the fuck, you should know everything about the leaders of the other gangs. Like, am I crazy? You should know every single thing about them that you can possibly know. And you've been doing this a year, so you've really been slacking on your studying of the other gangs. Like, have you never run across the other gangs' leaders? Like, you just you just conveniently miss each other all the time? I'm so confused. We've got to do something about it, Valkii. Pretty soon the Decapos will think they run the town, and the last thing I want to see is the Phantom getting what he wants. I nod in agreement. It's about time we put a stop to it. Lunchtime rolls around and Sarah and I make our routine surveillance of the school, starting with looking in on the cafeteria, then splitting up to do a sweep of the halls and meeting up outside the grounds. Nikki joins us, along with a few others. We take over a few of the benches, giving us a clear view of everyone on the school grounds. This spot was occupied by previous leaders of the school. Now it's mine. My mind drifts a little, lingering on the concern that not only Riverside had been on our turf last week, but Decapo too. They're becoming bold, and it worries me to think that they're not taking my leadership seriously. We've got trouble, says one of my gang members. I follow his eyesight to the front gate. A large, burly-looking guy stands near the gate, looking around. The students nearby eye him warily and back off quickly, most of them in fear. Who is that? I ask, taking in his appearance with a certain apprehension. Being a relatively new leader, I'm still learning the faces of our many enemies. You have been doing this a year. That is a pretty long amount of time. And since only a couple days ago, over the weekend, on the Friday, I assume, you had an attack on your school. Or, yeah, basically. And now you're having one again, presumably. This must happen a lot. So the fact she still has no knowledge is crazy. Nikki's been with the gang a lot longer, and luckily for me, it's full of information he's willing to share. Jed de Boer, the Phantom's right-hand man. My heart beats unsteadily in my chest at the mention of Gray's pseudo, and all kinds of wild thoughts lodge themselves in my head. What the hell could he be doing here? I'll take care of it, the Valkyrie. No use ruining your lunch for this filth. Nikki pushes himself up to leave, and I grit my teeth. I'm thankful to have members willing enough to share in the dirty work, but my bones are aching for a fight. I'll come with you, Sarah says quickly, following after Nikki. With a nod, a handful of people in the group peel off to follow the two of them. If this guy truly is associated with the Phantom, it might be best to keep my distance, for now. I inch a bit closer to be able to hear them from here. I bet people want a route with him. My eyes snap to Jed. His presence is ominous as ever as he looms under the gate. His hoodie is pulled up and makes him look like he's up to no good. It doesn't take long before the gang has surrounded Jed. He looks surprised. I'm guessing he's quickly realized he's outnumbered. What did you expect? What are you doing here? Sarah is the one to step up. I'm looking for a girl. She's got red eyes, white hair. Jed speaks, and it isn't what I expected. Oh, his voice is softer somehow, but that doesn't stop the blood that drains from my face at his description, and all of a sudden, a rush of confusion hits me. Is he talking about me? Well, yeah, you're probably the only person in this entire city that has red eyes and white hair. Is he talking about me? Is he out to get me? There's no girl here for you, Nikki threatens, his fists clenched at his sides. I have something that belongs to her. I am not leaving until I return it. Jed doesn't back down, instead taking a step forward in a show that he doesn't intend to leave without a fight. I'd leave quickly if I were you. Sarah squares up to meet him, completely fearless, though she stands a good foot shorter than him. Before the Valkyrie is forced to intervene. Sounds good to me. Let me speak to him. I scoff darkly. How typical of him to assume our leader would be male. I'm already annoyed enough with him to want him off the school grounds. Hey, you stupid giant. Sarah grunts loudly. How about you get your facts straight before you come waltzing in here? Like I said, I'm not leaving until I find this girl. You don't get to make any demands here, you decapo filth, says Nikki with disdain. He should be taught a lesson, says another one of our gang members. Yeah, kill him. The rest of the gang murmurs in agreement. Sarah looks back and catches my eye. She's waiting for my command on what to do with Jed. My heart pounds in my chest. These types of decisions are always the hardest to make. He hasn't exactly done anything wrong, but he is trespassing our territory. A leader needs to make a stand. Do we teach him a lesson? Yeah. I give Sarah a firm nod. We've been polite for long enough, and the sooner we can get rid of him, the better. It's time for Kleiner Academy to show to Capo how we deal with trespassers and sexists. You can even fathom the leader is a woman. Does no one study? Does no one study the other gangs? There is no way that you don't have people doing reconnaissance on other people. You fight each other all the time, and you don't know who the leader is? Or is this just a kept secret And they all have superhero names. I'm so confused. You heard him. Let's teach this oaf a lesson, Sarah roars. And he was all-powerful, and he fought back everybody. 3 of my gang members, along with Nikki, swarm towards Jed, and it's obvious that despite his size, he doesn't stand a chance. Still, he gives it his best shot, taking 2 of the guys down before Nikki and the others have him pinned down. The deafening sound of their relentless beating rings through the air, leaving Jed bruised and bloody on the ground. I mean, I feel bad, but he is a sexist, so... Naively sexist. I feel a slight pang of guilt as I see his state. However, he knew what he was getting into when he approached our territory. He could have avoided this if only he listened. The gang leaves him alone as Jed gets up and finally moves away from the school gates. He has my phone! Spending another day without my phone has me growing anxious. I usually get calls or texts from the gang alerting me to any activity, but without it I feel so helpless. I leave my last class for the afternoon, heading towards my locker to pick up things when the students around me begin to buzz, chattering and whispering furiously amongst themselves. It's when the crowd heads towards the quad that my suspicions are on high alert. I grab the arm of a girl rushing past, pulling her to a stop in front of me. What's going on? She recognizes me at once, her eyes going wide and her face pale. It's, Oh good. The Phantom is here. What? As the students surge forwards, I move backwards, 1 foot behind the other while my heart thumps a crazy rhythm in my chest. No, no, no. Why is he here? Is it because we beat up his second hand? The last thing I need is for him to reveal to my gang that I helped him the other night. Given Sarah's reaction to him earlier and the story of her cousin Dylan, I can only imagine the fallout of such a discovery. I have too much to lose if they find out. I can't let him see me. It must only be 15 minutes later when Sarah finds me on the school grounds, huddled up in our usual spot. I've been looking for you everywhere. She rushes to my side and I look up slowly, forcing a smile. And here I am. With an annoyed roll of her eyes, she sits down next to me. Gray Jansen was here. So I heard, I mumble. What did he want? He issued a challenge because of what happened yesterday with that guy, Jed. Seems I was right after all. I'm sure Nicky can handle himself against him, I say dismissively, even though I'm not entirely convinced. Nicky is quite small of stature, despite his large appetite for battle. When Sarah doesn't say anything, I turn to her, finding her grey eyes fixed on me in disbelief. The challenge was for you. What? He specifically said for the Valkyrie to meet him tomorrow night, 10 p.m. at Caulfield Park. Can you imagine, Valkii? If you win, which you totally will, you'll have bragging rights for, well, ever. I'm gonna lose, aren't I? Fuck. I swallow thickly around the lump in my throat, unable to share in the excitement, and Sarah gives me a look. Is everything okay? Yeah, If anyone can do this, it's you. How about you come over to my place and we'll get ready together. Then we'll head to the park later. I nod, knowing I don't have much of a choice. I'm not afraid of a fight, I never have been, but the circumstances around this particular one are less than desirable. I can't believe the Phantom actually had the nerve to come here and throw down a challenge, Nicky says when we meet the rest of the gang outside the school gates. They're all preparing to head home and ready themselves for what's to come tomorrow. Who does that guy think he is? Nicky demands. I'll bet he doesn't even show, says someone else. The guy has got some nerve trying to take on the Valkyrie, one of the bigger members of the gang speaks. The gang continues chatting, bad-mouthing Gray and his challenge, but I'm barely paying attention anymore. Something catches my eye between the bushes across the street. My forehead creases in confusion until I see it again. A flash of silver metal. I step away from the group without a word, though they're too caught up in their excitement to notice. Pacing down the sidewalk a little, I strain my eyes to see between the patches in the bushes. I thought I saw... A tug on my arm surprises me and a hand slaps down over my mouth, keeping me quiet. I want to cry out as I'm pulled through the hedge-like bushes, but I'm forced to stay silent. I struggle hard against my captor, clawing at the arms that are wrapped around me, heart pounding as I fight against their impossibly strong grip. In an instant, I lash out, my fist flying through the air over my head until it collides with soft flesh, and with a low groan, my captor releases me. I spin around to face them, fists up in front of me as I prepare for a fight. What the? I say in a low whisper, dropping my hands and eyeing the boy in front of me with utter disbelief. It's Gray. He rubs at the spot on his cheek where a red mark is forming, his expression a mixture of amusement and alarm. You sure have a strange way of saying hello. So do you, pulling me into a fucking bush. What are you doing here? I gasp. Well, I wanted to see you. What makes you think I want to see you? I argue, the words as sharp as a razor. Gray cocks an eyebrow, not expecting me to react like this. Or did you expect me to be like a little submissive baby and be like, well, I wanted to see you too because you're so hot. Oh, come on. I'm sure you were dying for another chance to hide away with me. Well, here it is. He grins and my blood boils as I cross my arms over my chest in impatience. I'm serious. You shouldn't be here. You just issued a challenge and now you're hanging around the place like you... Hey, relax. I don't see your leader anywhere around here anywhere, do you? Me. I grit my teeth, keeping my words to myself. I have something of yours, he says, holding something out between us. I immediately recognize the silver-starred case and the black cat charm dangling from the side, the twin to Sarah's orange one. So you have matching, like, phone charms, but you think she would, like, get on your ass about not knowing who the fuck Gray is, and you're just digging yourself into a deeper hole. My phone! How did you get that? It must have fallen from your pocket the other night. I picked it up after you stormed off. You're right, you pickpocketed me or something. Or you stole it. He cracks a disbelieving smile that only serves to boil my blood further. Do you really think so little of me? I don't say anything, instead grabbing the device from his hand and pressing the button to light up the screen. The battery is almost completely dead, but at least the password is still in place, and I can rest easy knowing he hasn't been snooping around in there. I can safely say we wouldn't be standing here together if he had. Then my gaze falls upon the crack going across the screen. It was only after a glint of light caught it that I noticed. My eyes snapped to his in accusation. You broke my phone, I hiss at him. Technically, those buffoons who guard your school broke it. I sent my best friend, Jed, here yesterday to return it. I'm sure we both know how that ended. Wait, so that's the reason Jed came over? To return my phone? Suddenly, I feel a strange sense of guilt settle in the pit of my stomach. My gang beat up Jed, but he was only doing something decent. Well... I start a bit hesitant. It's suspicious to drop by your rival's school without warning. His eyes go fierce all of a sudden, but after a moment they soften and he lets out a tired sigh. Look, I get it. You don't trust me. I come to your school unannounced, issue a challenge to your leader, and kidnap you from right under everyone's noses. I stare at him, unimpressed, and he lets out a breath of a laugh, his dark hair falling into his eyes. Despite our obvious differences, I only had the best intentions. I figured your phone was quite important to you. I don't know whether I should thank him or not. It's all very conflicting. He's not supposed to be nice to me. Well, he doesn't know you're the leader, so of course he's being nice to you because he's a fuckboy. Thanks, I finally admit. If only he knew who he was dealing with. Perhaps telling him would be worth it to see the look on his face. Stuffing my phone in my bag for safekeeping, I turn to find a way back to the street, though I'm stopped in my tracks by a hand gripping my arm and pulling me back. Elbow him in the face. Wait, don't leave. I can't watch you walk away without at least knowing your name. You don't give up, do you? Not when I see something I want. I open my mouth to speak, but I immediately shut it tight when I hear footsteps approaching us. Why is this my hair? I don't want this to be my hair. I should change that on the front page. Maybe I'll do something. Maybe she just looks like this. I mean, she looks badass, don't get me wrong. Just super badass. Like, I love it, actually. But also, she doesn't really look like she's the leader of a preppy school. She looks really gothy. Also, that top looks see-through. Thinking quick, I push Gray out of view into the bushes and cover him with my body. I can't let anyone find out he's been talking to me. I hold my breath as I hear people walk around. Gray stares at me wide-eyed, confused at my sudden actions. What? Shh. I hush him and cover his body even further. We can't let them see you. Thankfully, Gray shuts up. From this close up, his eyes are actually really pretty. Valkii, where the hell did that girl go? Someone calls out. Uh-oh, he knows my name now. Gray's eyes burn through me, this cocky expression slowly morphing into his face. He's gleeful, but I try my best to suppress any emotions in fear they'll discover us in this position. When their voices finally disappear, I breathe out a sigh of relief. They didn't catch us, but he knows my name now. Gray clears his throat. I like this kind of greeting much more, he says, his smile shimmering in the sunlight. Realizing our position is kind of questionable, I slowly remove myself from him. As opposed to, I ask, ignoring the fact I was on top of him a second ago. Taking a moment to collect himself and dust some stray leaves off his shirt, Gray playfully tilts his head to the side. Getting punched in the face? Definitely. Then don't randomly grab people when they're unaware, I argue back. It's instinct to hit back, you know? No harm done, Valkii, he says, his voice echoing through me. Something strange happens to me at the sound of my name on his lips, a tightening in my stomach, a chill down my spine. Curse my gang members for yelling my name loudly enough for Gray to hear. That is your name, right? He inquires playfully. The sound of my phone interrupts. I swiftly pull it from my bag in a hurry to reject the call before the two of us are found here together. Alone. Nikki again, huh? Gray has read the display. He was one of the people who beat up my best friend yesterday. Gray's voice is cold this time, devoid of that trademark humor. When our eyes meet again, his glare is glacial, unnerving me all the way down to my bones. What's it to you? I ask, stuffing my phone into my bag and out of sight. Gray's jaw flexes, the muscles feathering in annoyance, and something about his expression scares me a little. Everything? That is my best friend we're talking about. I won't let it slide that they beat him up, you know. Meet me at Caulfield Park tomorrow night, after I finish giving your leader nothing less than what he deserves. I'll take you out to celebrate. There it is again. He. The sound of that assumption coming from Gray's lips annoys me more than I want to admit. A spark of anger ignites in me as I look up at him. Our faces so close his warm breath rolls over my skin in a way that makes me shiver. Is that an order, Phantom? It's a request. I purse my lips, trying to prevent the corners from tilting in satisfaction. Maybe it'd be worth it, showing up as the Valkyrie, just to see the look on his face. In fact, the more I think about it, the more excited by the prospect I get. Wouldn't it be the least that he deserves? So, will you be there? Oh, see? This is what I mean. Fierce and kind. Dominant and submissive. Because yank is it literally says to assert dominance. So I'm just wondering if those warnings are there for people who choose the submissive option. Because it does give you a choice to not have to do those kind of things. I don't know. I guess we'll see. The fact that male dom is in the triggers or whatever is concerning to me because that wasn't on anything else. I lean towards him, suddenly emboldened by the knowledge that for the first time I have the upper hand. Slipping the chain that hangs from his neck around my finger, I give it a yank, pulling him closer and fixing him with a dark stare. Yes, Gray. I'll be there. He'll be in for a surprise. Looking forward to it. Oh, he's gonna get his ass kicked. Yes, we're back to the two... Back to the two... 1 minute, I'm gonna change the appearance. I didn't actually change anything apart from the hair, because... I don't think any of this is gonna matter. Apart from the skin color, the eye color, the hair color. None of it's gonna matter until we get out of high school. So let's go. Are you ready for tomorrow night? Nikki asks. We're walking along the darkened street towards our houses together, our path illuminated only by the streetlights hanging overhead. We've just left Sammy's Burger Bar after doing the rounds with the gang, ensuring no rivals were trying to swoop in and make our hangout spots their own, as they sometimes do. Hiccups. Of course. I mean, I've taken down bigger guys than the Phantom in boxing class, so how hard can it be? I reply. It's not like I had to use much force to push him down into a bush just hours before. Yeah, but that's when he wasn't expecting it. And isn't expecting you to have any kind of strength, so he's not on guard like that. Nikki nods, thinking it over for a moment. He's always good for giving a solid opinion on matters and has a penchant for telling the truth, no matter how hard it is to hear. That's the thing I like most about Nikki, and why I spend so much of my time with him these days. The Phantom hasn't had any professional training, like you and your kickboxing. He's a brawler and he hits hard, but you'll have no problem matching him for speed. I give Nikki an incredulous look, and he meets it with a shrug of his shoulders. How do you know so much about the other gangs? Because he studies, unlike other fucking people. I ask around. Doesn't hurt to know more about your enemies, he says, and I have to admit that it makes sense. We pass by a large, empty lot, formerly the premises of an old bakery, and I stop in my tracks before I can say any more. There's a group hanging out in there, drinking and smoking. They look older than us. It's only when I look closer that I see one of the guys has someone pinned to the ground in the middle of their circle. He's saying something to the boy on the ground who can't be any older than 16. I can't hear what it is through the others half blocking them from sight. What I do hear, however, is the crack of his fist when it comes down across the side of the boy's face. Maybe we should help him. I take a step, but Nikki grabs my arm and drags me back. No, he's a Riversider, he says distastefully, his eyes fixed on the boy groaning from where he lays in the dirt. How do you know? I recognize him from yesterday, hanging around the academy with a hammer, Nikki says before turning and fixing me with a hard stare. Look, he's a Riversider. We're not about to help our enemies. I suppose you're right, I say as I look on, but do nothing, knowing my hands are tied. The guy in the circle punches the boy one last time before throwing him back down into the dirt, while the rest of the group look on and laugh. Gangs don't help other gangs, that's just how it is. And especially not the leaders. If our members ever found out one of us did something like that, we'd be done for. Oh, this is very coincidental. Do you know something? A chill runs down my spine when I think back on my interactions with Gray Jansen so far. Because if what Nikki's saying is true, then if it ever got out, if Gray ever told anyone, then I would be completely screwed. I can only hope the Phantom keeps his mouth shut. No, he's gonna be like, oh my god, you're a girl? The next day, Sarah and I head over towards the park. The night is still and pleasant, yet a cold shiver runs down my spine as the shadows of looming trees get closer and closer. I thought I was ready for this fight, but the closer we get, the louder the voices and shouts beyond the trees become, the more I realize I'm not prepared for this at all. What Nikki told me last night about helping members of other gangs had really gotten to me. I can see now how the situation will play out in my mind. I'll head into the park to cheers and applause of my gang, and Gray will finally realize he's been getting friendly with the enemy. He'll be confused and probably angry, and then he'll spill the truth about the night I helped him in the street, and everyone will know. Everyone will question what kind of leader I am. There will be repercussions, worse than being stood down as the leader of the gang. I can't let them find out. Not now that I know how much power I have to lose. I'd be done for. No more gang, no more leadership, no more anything. My heart pounds louder and louder with each step until the only thing I can hear is my pulse in my ears and my deep, stuttered breaths. Sarah. I come to a stop. Sarah stops just in front of me, her hair whipping around her shoulders when she turns. I'm not so sure this is a good idea. What are you talking about? She says, an eyebrow raised in confusion. You're never afraid of anything. I know, it's just... I stop, cut off by a sudden series of shouts and curses just behind the tree line. Sarah comes to my side and puts a comforting hand on my shoulder. Look, you have nothing to worry about. I've seen what you can do, and I've no doubt that you'll kick the Phantom's ass. She gives me an encouraging smile, and I attempt to return it, though fail miserably. Come on, Valkii. Sarah's forehead crinkles in confusion when she sees straight through my facade. What's wrong with you tonight? Would you stop mothering me? I'm fine. Sarah's bottom lip juts out unhappily and she folds her arms over her chest, looking her... Well, I didn't want to say it, but it made me. I feel a little guilty at having snapped at her, but I have enough on my plate without her questioning me about it every 5 seconds. No need to be so touchy. I'm just worried about you, that's all. I sigh, knowing that none of this is her fault, or anyone's but my own. Maybe I should tell her the truth. She is my best friend after all, but... in the end, I just can't do it. A shout interrupts us, followed by a riotous uproar, and our heads snap towards the park like a pair of deer caught in headlights. Quick, let's go and see what's happening. Go, go, go. Sarah sprints ahead, expecting me to follow, but I stay glued to the spot, my stomach roiling with nerves. I watch as her back disappears from my sight. The voices grow louder still, and it's clear a fight has broken out. I know I should be there, leading the charge at the head of my gang, but my feet won't let me move from the spot I'm in, and my skin crawls at the thought of showing up. Valkii? Oh no, I know that voice. The hair on the back of my neck bristles. I turn to find Gray heading towards me, alone. He has one hand on his side with that easy, lopsided grin plastered on his face. What are you doing over here on your own? I feel sweat trickle down my back. Oh, you know, just enjoying the thrilling sounds of wild teenagers defending their natural habitat. I try to deflect. They do sound a bit savage, don't they? Gray huffs a laugh. He takes a step closer, though when I step back in tandem, he stops and gives me a funny look. I can't tell him it's because if anyone saw us together, being as friendly as we are, it wouldn't go down well for either of us. Thankfully, he doesn't ask. So, you've come to watch after all. You know, things are going to get ugly. Maybe it's best that you keep your distance from it. Now it's my turn to look at him funny. Is he trying to protect me? I did promise to take you out afterwards, didn't I? Wouldn't want you getting hurt before then. There's a lot I want to show you on my side of town. I can take care of myself, I say with an edge, though Gray only chuckles at the statement and gives me a once-over. I don't doubt it. I ignore the gesture, glancing nervously towards the trees and preparing myself to bolt if anyone comes through them. Well, I should head over there. Gray runs a hand through his hair, following my line of sight. I'm sure your leader is waiting for me. I swallow down the lump forming in my throat. It suddenly occurs to me that him going over there is a very, very bad idea. Not only is he going to realize that there's really no one waiting for him there at all, but he might grow suspicious as to why that is. Wait! I shoot out a hand to stop him from leaving. You know, you couldn't just not go. He gives me an incredulous look, and I feel a little ridiculous at having suggested such a thing. From what Sarah has told me already, the Phantom certainly isn't one to back down from a fight. Not go? He laughs in disbelief, and for a moment I want to sink right through the ground beneath my feet. What kind of leader would I be if I backed down from my own challenge? A merciful one? Gray cocks his head, his face strangely serious for once, and a chill runs down my spine. Things don't work like that around here. It's kill or be killed, he says roughly, his voice as hard as flint. This city is mine, and I'm going to make sure that everyone knows it, starting with a cowardly leader who thinks 4 against 1 is a fair fight. Before I can stop myself, the urge to defend my gang bubbles to the surface. Your friend shouldn't have been on our turf. Gray's eyes turn cold and unforgiving. I resist the urge to slap a hand over my mouth, standing my ground against him instead. What did you say? He steps closer, and this time I don't move, refusing to let him intimidate me. It might work on everyone else, but I'm not just anyone. I'm saying that if our guys beat him up, it was for a good reason, I say through gritted teeth, and Gray cocks an eyebrow, intrigued by my words. Your guys? Yes, from my school. He huffs a laugh and rubs a thumb over his bottom lip, backing down so suddenly I can barely contain my surprise. All right, I get it. You're not about to turn your coat anytime soon, he says casually. However, something about him still seems wound up, like his mind is somewhere else. Maybe you want to fight your gutless leader's fight for him? Wouldn't that be a sight? I'd certainly love to see the look on your face, I bite back, knowing I'm treading a dangerous path. Gray waves a dismissive hand at me, as if even the very idea of that is amusing. Then he leans forward, his voice unwavering when he whispers. No need to be hostile. I have nothing against you, personally. That's what he thinks. When he leans back, he folds his arms over his chest, and I can see he's done with the pleasantries. Now, where's your leader? Tell me. Maybe you can beat it out of me. Gray snickers as though he finds my hostility amusing. You know, the sooner I get this fight over and done with, the sooner I can take you out, as promised. I never agreed to that, he says, his pale eyes glinting under the light of the street lamp. You sound awfully confident. Why wouldn't I be? I grit my teeth, sorely tempted to spill the truth right now just to kick him down from his high horse. All I'm saying is I don't think you should be underestimating our leader the way you are, I say instead, and even though Gray laughs it off, I know it's the truth. He shouldn't be underestimating me in the slightest. Well, it's been a nice chat, but I really need to get over there. He starts to walk away, and a bolt of panic hits me like a shot to the chest. What will Gray do when he realizes he has to face me? Would he really call me out in front of everyone? Is Nikki going to leave me in the dirt right then and there? Is Sarah going to cut off ties with me? Wait, I say, the word leaving my mouth before I can stop it. He turns, impatience shadowing his face, but I step towards him anyway. I have to think of something quick. I turn on my charm. I look at him sweetly as I link my arm with his for good measure, blinking up at him from beneath my lashes. Why don't we just forget all about this gang business and find something better to do together? I say coyly. You've certainly changed your tune, he says, his eyes narrowing in suspicion. I shrug in return, keeping up the act as best I can. It's a nice night. It'd be a shame to waste it. My voice is thick with false sweetness, and I try my best not to gag on it. I know very well if anyone saw me like this right now, I'd be deader than dead. But I'm becoming desperate. And besides, wouldn't you rather spend your time with me rather than waste it on some silly fight? He gives me an apologetic smile as he shrugs my hand off his arm. Gray sighs, his shoulders slumping as he does so, and for a moment I think he's going to give in. I don't think you understand what being a leader is like. He holds my gaze, and I school my features into a neutral expression. There are expectations. I understand better than you think, I say sharply, taking him by surprise. Oh? So, if you were a leader, if you were in my place right now, what would you do? My teeth grind together hard. If I lie, he'll know it. He has a funny way of sensing everything I never want to tell him, despite not having figured out the biggest lie of all. With a sigh, I give in. I go to the fight. My gaze settles on the ground in front of me, and I chew on my bottom lip in defeat. When Gray taps me under the chin, I meet his bright eyes and that half-cocked smile of his. Maybe you have what it takes after all. I watch him leave, dread pooling in my stomach. If I don't get over there soon, there'll be hell to pay. But Nikki's warning still rings in my ears, and I know I just can't do it. So instead, I decide to find a place to watch the commotion, making sure it doesn't get too out of hand. If it does, I promise myself I'll step in and handle it, but only as a last resort. Circling the outskirts of the park, I find a tree I can climb easily enough and scramble up into the lower limbs, obscured by clusters of leaves. How are you going to explain the fact that you didn't show up, that you turned up, because Sarah knows you turned up? But you never went. How are you going to explain that? From here, I can see straight through the foliage into an open space where the two gangs have met face to face, Kleiner Academy versus Da Capo High. And it's from here that I see the true extent of the chaos. The park has been completely trashed. Trash cans are tipped over and park benches have been ripped up from the ground. I don't know if it's my guys who are responsible for the damage or Gray's, but I know things are taking a dangerous turn. I have to do something. I can't keep hiding in this tree like the coward Gray thinks I am, while the scene in front of me heats to a boiling point and my gang is left standing in the firing line. So I do the only thing I can think of at the moment. I pull my phone from my pocket and I call the police. I know I'm breaking some kind of code here, but it has to be done. I have to break this up without showing my face. I spot Nikki and Gray together. I have to stay perfectly still to hear what's going on, but I can make out the conversation well enough. Where is he, huh? Gray shouts in Nikki's face, his features twisted into the kind of rage I've never seen before. How come you lot are here and your fearless leader isn't? You're just as dumb as you look, aren't you? Nikki stands a head shorter than Gray, but pushes against his chest anyway. No one said anything about our leader being a bloke. A girl, then? Oh my goodness, a girl? Gray asks, and he looks genuinely surprised. My stomach drops, wondering if that's enough information for him to put two and two together. Doesn't matter. The challenge stands. Well, that's good. Not much of a challenge if the leader doesn't show. Jed steps beside Gray, eyeing my gang like he'd love nothing more than to make them his next meal. You better watch your mouth before I shut it for you. A decidedly feminine voice cuts through the crowd, and when Sarah steps up, my heart lurches in my chest. I'd like to see you try, pipsqueak. Jed chuckles, and I curse under my breath, wondering if the guy has a death wish. Sarah launches at Jed, and I almost jump down from the tree to stop her before a couple of our guys hoist her back out of harm's way. A breath of relief escapes me, knowing Sarah really isn't a fighter, and Jed is at least twice her size. It doesn't take long for the lights to flash through the trees, red and blue, and accompanied by the wailing of sirens. Everyone is suddenly on high alert. I've been forgetting to take screenshots. It doesn't Everyone, retreat! Gray hollers at his gang. Shit, Sarah, let's go! Nikki says, pulling Sarah away. At the sound of the police cars, the crowd scatters, and I debate jumping down from my hiding spot and running with them before I decide I'm probably better off where I am. The tree affords me a view of the commotion. I see the officers entering the park and pinning down anyone and everyone they can get their hands on. My gang seems to have made it out all right, lucky to have been on the opposite side, and I let out a breath of relief. But Gray's guys have all but run into the officers' waiting arms, and many of them now sport a shiny pair of handcuffs on each wrist. Fuck, she's fucked up. She is fucked up. And then I see something that freezes me to the spot and my fingers dig into the tree trunk, my eyes widening as I take in the scene. An officer has Gray restrained, while another pulls what looks like a knife from his jacket pocket. I gasp as my eyes land on the weapon, a cold chill running through my veins. What was he planning on doing with that? You guys, we're in high school, we don't kill each other, okay? Jesus. There are turf wars among us, but aside from the occasional bat or broom, people have never brought knives to the party. In fact, it's highly illegal to even carry one on your person. Was Gray really going to use a knife in this fight? Gray yells something I can't quite hear as one of the officers slams a pair of silver handcuffs around his wrist, and the two of them struggle to restrain him and push— This is a run-on sentence! Gray yells something I can't quite hear as one of the officers slams a pair of handcuffs around his wrist, and then the two of them struggle to restrain him and push him through the open door of their waiting vehicle. Sarah once told me it'd be worth calling the police just to see the Phantom in cuffs, but now that it's really happening, I'm not sure that I feel all too good about it. I watch until the police cars pull away and the flash of their lights disappear into the night, leaving the park in an unnatural silence after all the previous commotion. Slipping down from the tree, I take the time to adjust myself at the bottom, taking in a lungful of cool night air and exhaling it slowly as I plan my next move. I should check in with my gang, Sarah and Nikki at the very least. I know they'll be mad that I bailed, but I think I can come up with some kind of excuse to smooth it over. Well, what a wild fucking scene that was. Who's this? I almost jump out of my skin when I notice the guy standing barely 5 feet away from me. I suddenly recognize him. Oh, it's the Riverside guy. Nikki pointed him out the other day, Ivan Novak, the leader of the Riversiders. When he takes a drag on the cigarette he holds, the tip of it glows orange through the darkness. There's something about him being here that doesn't feel right. Friend or foe, I'm leaning foe. What are you doing here? I blurt out, unsure of what more I can do. This wasn't a turf war between Riversiders at the moment. Observing, he says simply. I wonder if he means me or what just happened in the park. Hey, don't I know you? He leans forward to get a closer look at me, and I step back into the shadows, hoping it will be enough to hide my face from him. I don't think so. He huffs, and it seems like he really doesn't care either way. He's gotten what he came for, to see the winner of the challenge. Too bad there was none. Well, whoever you are, looks like the Academy are the ones that come out on top tonight. He drawls out and drops his cigarette on the grass in front of him. He puts it out with the toe of his sneaker as he exhales his last breath of smoke. Heard you up in that tree there on your phone just now. He snickers as though he finds the situation nothing short of amusing. And I thought I was the one with dirty tricks up my sleeves. Dirty tricks? Save it, sweetheart. You've done me a big favor, you know? The night hasn't played out exactly as I planned, but with the Phantom out of the way, that leaves only one obstacle to eliminate. I don't say a word, but it turns out I don't have to, because he voices exactly what I'm thinking anyway. The Valkyrie. Catch you around, sweetheart. They're all such bleh. He strolls off, waving a hand at me from over his shoulder before he shoves them in his pockets and heads off into the night. I let out the breath I've been holding in, watching him until he disappears completely. Something transpired and I'm out of the loop, which I don't like. Did I just get played? Was he planning this all along? I lean back against the stone pillar of the school's gate, keeping to the shade as I watch over the students while they file past me on their way home. After what had happened at the park with the Phantom and the other members of the Da Capo gang being hauled away by the cops, I can't be sure what kind of retaliation they'll have planned, so I know we have to be prepared for the worst. And not only that, but the Riversiders are growing bolder. They venture into our side of the city almost daily, trashing our hangouts and picking off any of our gang members who are traveling alone. That Ivan, the Hammer, he's up to something. Already we've had three broken noses and a chipped tooth. I can only imagine the kind of phone calls the schools must be receiving from disgruntled parents. It's my responsibility to keep the academy students safe, and lately that's been proving to be a difficult task. Are you Valkii? A deep voice shakes me from my thoughts, and when I turn to face it, the hairs on the back of my neck stand on end. Oh hey. The guy who spoke stops nearby, his body casting a long shadow over me. He's got to be at least a foot taller than I am. Gray's right-hand man. I glance around quickly to see who may be watching, but notice the school grounds have emptied out while I was lost in thought. Who's asking? I recognize him, but I'm not going to give him the satisfaction of knowing that. His mouth is set in a tight line, and I can tell he doesn't want to be talking to me any more than I want to be seen with him. I'm Jed, a friend of Gray's. I don't say anything. Instead, I cross my arms over my chest, staring down the hulk of a boy in front of me and waiting for him to continue. He wanted me to come by and give you a message. He was arrested. For carrying a knife, yeah, I heard. I turn up my nose, ignoring the guilt even when it gnaws away at my insides. He's still in the cells. He continues, his voice rough. They refuse to let him go until he confesses to carrying a weapon with intent to injure. Serves him right. He huffs a breath, shaking his head at me and narrowing his eyes in impatience. You don't get it, do you? Gray doesn't carry knives. He isn't stupid. Doesn't look that way. The muscles in his jaw feather from where he grits his teeth, but I refuse to break eye contact. Eventually, he lets out a long breath, his shoulders drooping as he remembers why he came here. Anyway, he wanted me to tell you sorry, that he couldn't take you out on the date he promised. I glance around instinctively, making sure no one overheard him. Jed doesn't look thrilled to be the one to have to deliver the message, but I'm even less than impressed that he came here to do it. I don't care about the date. I hiss through my teeth, my temper getting the best of me. Yeah, I can tell. Gray's sitting in a cell, expelled from school and with no future ahead of him, and here you are, barely batting a false eyelash. My nostrils flare wide as I step up to him, having to crane my neck just to maintain eye contact. If you ever step within 50 feet of the academy again, you'll regret it. He snorts, looking me up and down before he backs away, stuffing his hands in his pockets and turning to leave without another word. I watch him go right up until he disappears, my blood boiling in my veins. But underneath that fury, I know that even though I can lie to Jed, I can't lie to myself. I do care that Gray was arrested. I care because I was the one who made it happen, and I haven't been able to stop thinking about it since. How is this still going? You're supposed to be short like the other ones. Sarah and I walk into Sammy's Burger Bar to the sounds of hoots and cheers. The entire gang is here, spread out over various tables with extra chairs pulled out to accommodate everyone. They all welcome us as we take a seat amongst them, talking excitedly amongst themselves. Oops. Food has already been ordered. Can't believe the Phantom was expelled. It was bound to happen sooner or later. Did you hear he brought a knife to the challenge? I sink back into one of the booths, staring at my burger with no appetite. I understand why the gang is celebrating. I'd be happy too if the circumstances surrounding Gray's arrest were different, but they're not. Come on, Valkii, your burger's getting cold. She pokes my side to get my attention. Oh, I'm just not really all that hungry, I lie. Sarah shoots me an odd look, one that I know all too well. She knows something is wrong, but doesn't want to bring it up with this many people around. Thankfully, she doesn't prod any further. Aside from shooting me a few inquisitive side glances, I managed to avoid any awkward conversation. When we exit the restaurant to be met by the cool night air, I'm starting to feel a little better. The gang parts ways. Sarah and I group up with a few others who live in our part of town and start walking home, chatting as we go. We round a corner, finding ourselves facing a group the same size as ours, hanging out on the pavement. It almost looks as though they've been waiting for us. Look who it is, Academy snobs. Ivan finally rears his head again. Just who we wanted to see. Riversiders, it's an ambush, Sarah hisses from beside me, her eyes narrowed on the group. I face down the large one at the front, my hands balled into fists at my side as he steps even closer, his gang flanking him. This is our part of town. Why don't you go back across the river where you belong? He snorts, as though he finds me about as menacing as a baby duckling. Perhaps with the nickname like the Hammer, you don't really find anyone else intimidating. Such a tough little girl. Don't worry, sweetheart, we won't hurt you or your friends, so long as you tell us where we can find the Valkyrie. You're looking at the Valkyrie. I spit between clenched teeth, enjoying the way his eyebrows jump up in surprise. But then he laughs loudly, joined by his gang. You're too funny. Come on now. Where can I find your leader? With the Phantom out of the picture, the Valkyrie is the only one left in my way. I stare him down, saying nothing, and eventually something seems to click in his brain. Oh, so you're the Valkyrie, huh? It's only polite to introduce yourself first, I bite back. The name's Ivan, or the Hammer as my enemies refer me as. His lips slowly spread into a grin so unsettling it sends shivers down my spine. This is gonna be fun. A gasp of surprise escapes me when he launches in my direction. His size makes him slow enough that I manage to dodge him at the last second. With his back turned, I send my foot slamming into the back of his leg, making him fall to one knee with a groan. I'm only vaguely aware of the others taking care of the rest of the Riversiders around me, my eyes firmly fixed on Ivan as he pushes himself to his feet and dusts the dirt from his pants. When he faces me, all traces of amusement have vanished from his face, replaced instead by a dark glare. He comes towards me again and I raise my fists, ready for him. He dodges my right hook with ease and a glint of metal catches my eye. A knife. So yeah, he planted it on... Come on. Girl, you can put the clues together, man. Come on. Suddenly, something hits me from the side and I'm pushed down to the ground. A cry of pain pierces the air, but it's not mine. I scramble to my feet to find Sarah hunched over in the spot I had previously been standing, and Ivan standing over her. Spots of crimson blood drip from the knife he has clutched in his hand. Sarah's been cut. Sarah! Ivan stands, rooted to the ground. But my yell seems to shake Ivan from whatever stupor he'd been in, and he looks almost panicked when he shouts at his gang to run, his heavy footsteps disappearing down the street as he follows behind them. I rush over to my best friend and she whimpers in pain as I put my hand on her side to assess the damage Ivan's knife has done. She's conscious, which is a good sign, though she's breathing hard, and when I pull my hands away from her wounds, they're covered in blood. Call an ambulance! I scream at my nearest gang member, even as my throat tightens painfully. Tears pool in the corner of my eyes as I watch the blood staining Sarah's shirt, and I feel the panic rising in my chest. It's gonna be okay, Sarah. I clasp her hand to keep myself grounded, and she nods as the sounds of sirens can be heard in the distance. I promise. Sarah, no! Nikki and I step... How is this fucking not over? Nikki and I step into the hospital room, finally allowed to see her. Sarah smiles at us from the bed she's currently propped up in. Hey, how are you feeling? I ask. I'm okay. I've got a few stitches in my side and it hurts pretty bad when I move, but the doctors say it'll heal cleanly. You still look like shit, says Nikki with a wry smile. Oh, shut up, says Sarah with a roll of her eyes. Nikki isn't wrong. Sarah seems pale still, but she's looking a lot better than when we arrived in the ambulance. Her parents were notified and they also spent the entire night here, looking after her. They say when you can leave? Probably in a couple of hours. They said I'll need some prescription painkillers and that's it. I nod solemnly, moving closer and studying the various tubes and equipment around her bed. I'm sorry that this happened. It's not your fault, Valkii. She gives me a small smile, and I know this isn't something she would ever hold against me, but that doesn't stop the guilt from eating away at my mind. Someone recorded the fight. They sent me the video earlier this morning. Sarah reaches for her phone. Nikki and I take a seat on either side of the bed to watch the video on the screen. Sure enough, the fight plays out on the small screen, showing Ivan and I fighting before Sarah knocked me out of the way. There's a series of shouts from the recording as the video wobbles and cuts out after that, and I let out a heavy sigh. I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't been there, Sarah. That knife would have gone right through me. Lucky I was there to watch your back then. See, she would literally die for you, and you're like, I can't tell her that I accidentally helped the leader of the other gang. Like, that it was an accident, and you will do whatever you can to make it right. Nikki turns to me, his expression serious. The hammer will be put away for this. This video is proof enough to convict him. I nod, knowing it's true, but the whole situation makes me sick to my stomach. First it was Gray's arrest, and now Ivan. Every now and then you'd see the odd bat or crowbar in a fight, but knives, that was taking things too far. And the one thing I'm certain of is that I don't want any part of it. Are you alright? You look pale, Sarah asks, noticing I'm being quiet. I quickly realize that both pairs of eyes are on me, waiting for my response. I swallow hard as I think. I don't want to tell them that the situations with both Gray and Ivan horrify me. I'd cleaned the blood from my hands, but I can still remember what it felt like, warm and sticky and smelling of metal. I don't want to tell them that it makes my skin crawl, that I want nothing more than to run home and curl up in bed, forgetting that any of this had happened and things will go back to normal tomorrow, even when I know they won't. Nikki, would you mind getting me a bottle of water from the machine? I ask. Nikki nods as I reach into my pocket and hand over a couple of coins. When he exits the room, I let out a heavy breath. What are you thinking, the Valkyrie? Sarah asks quietly, her voice piercing the sudden silence. We should be happy that we managed to get rid of both leaders, she stresses. Loyal Sarah, still only thinking of the gang when she's the one that got slashed by a maniac and put in the hospital. I stare out of the window, my eyes glazing over and my lips moving before my mind is even fully made up. I'm thinking that I don't want to be called the Valkyrie anymore. Not when it puts us in danger like this. Not when Sarah is the one in the hospital, my best friend. What? She chokes out, completely caught off guard. What makes you say that? He was after me. That knife was meant for me, I stress, not you. So what? She huffs. I'll throw myself in front of a bullet if it means protecting you, the leader. Exactly, I say exasperatedly. That's the issue here. I can't have you getting hurt on my behalf, or anyone else for that matter. You're serious? She says, her eyes turning sorrowful. The Phantom and Hammer might be gone, but there will be new ones, maybe even worse. So that's it. I nod at her, determined with my resolution. I can't continue with this anymore. I'm quitting. Sarah stares at the hands in her lap. Even if she doesn't agree with me completely, I know she understands what I'm saying. I'll do whatever you think is best. I may not agree, but I've got your back, after all. If you're out, I'm out. See, she would leave the group for you. You could have told her. I understand why she was scared, though. I smile at her, gratefully relieved she understands my decision. Alright, cool. Are we getting out of high school now? I don't want to be in high school anymore, man. I'll see you in the next one.